So we start the class with a meditation practice. And the form of meditation that I teach is based on the Zen model, which basically means that it's a simple technique of sitting still and silent sitting. And it's a simple technique that has an intention to practice relaxing the physical body and calming the mind. I was watching a Michael Singer talk today about his recent books, about living untethered and so forth. And one of the questions he was asked was, you keep speaking about letting go. You keep speaking about releasing, these energetic blocks in the body. And one of the questions that was asked of him was, how do you do that? And his answer was, you learn to relax. You practice relaxation. You learn to calm your mind. And this takes time. But if you practice it consistently and you're able to bring your body into a state of relaxation, you're able to bring your mind into a calm, peaceful state, then you can go to this state of relaxation and calmness when things occur in your life that disturb your nervous system. And so he also talks about the fact that you should practice with the little things. Because another person asked him a question and they said, if I experienced a severe trauma, how can you just tell me to relax and expect that I'm going to be able to do that? And he said, I don't expect you to be able to do that if you encounter a severe trauma. That's why I tell you, practice it now. Don't wait until you have a severe trauma. Start with the little things. Start with practicing relaxing when you're driving your car instead of being uptight and tense and upset or angry. Practice that then, Practice with what he called the low-hanging fruit, the smaller things. Practice with the weather. Pay attention and notice what your mood is or your attitude is when you wake up in the morning. And practice with that, relaxing the body, calming the mind. So these are key aspects of the practice of meditation, or better yet, called silent sitting, to avoid all the spiritual mumbo-jumbo. Silent sitting. So relaxing the body, calming the mind, and then along with that, developing an understanding about the truth. And why that's important is because what you and I have been conditioned to believe and to consider to be reality is not true. Why would the truth be so important if we already were experiencing the truth? Well, we're not experiencing the truth. We're experiencing the conditioning that's been passed on from generation to generation for as long as recorded time. And this conditioning is so hypnotic. The agreement about the conditioning is so complete. Everybody believes that what reality is considered to be by the average person is what reality is, and that's simply not true. Everybody believes that who they were told they are as a personality in a physical body is the truth. It's simply not true. And the reason why the suffering occurs is because we're trying to be happy and peaceful and live our lives in a condition in which we're being something that we're not, in a condition in which we're being something that's a program that we inherited, that we believe is the truth, and we're trying to get it to work. It's no different than trying to get a square peg in a round hole. Same thing. No different than that. And it doesn't work. It ends up creating a lot of suffering. So through the teachings, we develop a deep understanding of what the truth is. And then in the practice of sitting still and quiet, sitting silently, we're practicing relaxing the body, calming the mind, to be consistent with this truth that we're learning about, which is that we are the awareness, we are the consciousness. And so when we sit in meditation and we sit in silence and stillness, the opportunity presents itself to become aware of awareness, to become clear about the truth, to see directly what's true. When we move attention from the thinking activity to the awareness of the body breathing, the opportunity presents itself for us to see the truth. The truth is we are the awareness of the body breathing, and when we're not thinking, that reality is easier for us to notice, to become aware of. And so we're practicing awareness of the truth, and at the same time we're practicing relaxing the body and calming the mind. And to do this over and over again helps us to learn and prepare to be in life, so that when things happen in life that present us with challenges, when difficulties occur in the life we live in time and space, in the life we live in the agreements that people consider to be reality, that we can practice in life, as life is happening, we can practice starting with the small things, starting with the moods, starting with the weather, starting with the traffic. And as we practice with these smaller things, we develop an ability to remain calm, remain grounded, remain centered as the ripples of life come at us. And so today, for a little change, I'm going to include for the audience on YouTube the meditation practice, the sitting in silence that we do before I usually give the talk. So the technique that we're talking about here is very simple. You can sit in a chair, you can sit on the floor in a full lotus position, a half lotus position, you know. You want to have a posture that works, which means you want your back to be straight. And then you want to have attention on the body. You want to be aware of the body before you begin the actual session of sitting in silence. Take some time to be aware of the body. Just let yourself notice the body. Become aware of any tightness or tension, scanning through the body from the head to the toe. Noticing the tightness in the face or the eye sockets, the jaw, the neck, the shoulders. Letting the shoulders release and drop. Slowing down. And then allowing the weight of the body to fall into the chair or fall into the floor. So sitting in a posture that the weight of the body can support itself. And then letting go, letting the weight of the body fall into the earth, fall into the chair, letting the body relax. Slowing down. And then we start to pay attention to the breath. I find it helpful to pay attention to the breath at the belly because the belly moves when we breathe. And we want to breathe like a baby. When we inhale, the belly expands. When we exhale, the belly contracts. This is called baby breathing. It's a natural form of breathing. And we're going to pay attention to the breath. We're going to watch the breath. And as we begin to watch the breath, it won't be long before a thought occurs and attracts our attention to thinking. And so we'll find ourselves in thought. This is natural. This is a habit. And when we find ourselves in thought, as soon as you realize that you're thinking, move your attention back to the belly and back to the breath. And just keep doing this. Every time you move the attention back to the belly and back to the breath, it only will remain there for a period of time, and then thinking will occur, and you'll find yourself back in thought. As soon as you realize you're thinking, bring it back to the belly and back to the breath. Just keep repeating this over and over again. This is strengthening the muscle of attention. This is developing your ability to maintain a physically relaxed state and a calm mind. As we move attention away from the thinking activity, we're not involved with thought. The thoughts begin to calm down naturally. And so this is the practice. I'll begin the practice by ringing a bell, and then at the end of the time, I'll ring the bell 3 times. So the amount of time that you meditate, depending on whether you're a beginner or not, if you're a beginner, see if you can come up with a time that is workable, is doable for you, that you don't go crazy and you don't become so restlessness that you can't continue. It may be 5 minutes, it might be 10 minutes, depends. And you can gradually work your way up. In the Zen tradition, a meditation sit is basically 30 minutes. And after 30 minutes, if you can, if your situation allows for it, take a walk. Get up from the meditation and take a walk. In the Zen tradition, walking meditation is practiced in combination with sitting meditation. So after sitting, everyone in the Zendo gets up and walks. And when you're walking, you continue to practice being silent and paying attention to the body walking, watching the body walk. And just as is the case in sitting meditation, as you go to do this, you'll notice that you keep finding yourself thinking instead of being aware of the body walking. And so whenever you find yourself thinking, you bring your attention back to paying attention to the body walking. So that's the basic sitting silence meditation. And I recommend that if you're interested in these practices and these teachings, that you make it a practice that you do every single day, at least one time every single day. And you should also every single day spend some time listening to teaching or reading some teaching, contemplating the teaching, deepening your understanding of the truth. Because it's the combination of this understanding of the truth with the practice of relaxing the body and calming the mind. Learning about reality, learning about what's real, learning about what you are, learning about what is true. So that as you practice meditation, you understand this practice is going to allow you to come into an awake state. This practice is going to allow you to be able to deal with the reality of life, the situations and the circumstances that life presents you with. As time passes, your ability to remain calm and grounded and centered in relationship to life. And this is supported by the teaching, because if you understand, if you develop an understanding about the truth, one understanding, for example, about the truth is that everything that happens in life is what's supposed to happen. That's an inverted way of saying that everything that's happening is predetermined, but I won't go there tonight. I'll just say that everything that happens is supposed to happen. And the reason that's important to understand is because one of the primary sources of human suffering is the reactions and the resistance and the rejection of what's happening, right? The reactions to, the resistance to, and the rejection of what's happening. That may be somebody that you're living with, a spouse, a partner, a family member. And when they behave, and what occurs for you is you have a reaction to what they're saying or what they're doing, right? Because it's wrong according to you. It should be different than it is according to you. They shouldn't be behaving that way according to you. And when that's the case, right, you have a rejection and a reaction to what's happening. The problem is what's happening is what's supposed to be happening. So whenever you reject it, you're rejecting reality. And when you reject reality, you suffer. Because when you reject reality, you're in conflict with what's happening. If you reject what somebody's doing, you're in conflict with that person. If you reject what you're doing, you're in conflict with yourself. So this is the source of suffering, and the understandings are important to develop a realistic approach to living your life. And if you develop your ability to be relaxed and calm the mind, and you understand what's happening is what's supposed to happen, then you can relax and go with it. Go with it. Allow life to be the way life is. If you really allow yourself to develop a deep understanding of the truth, which is life is the way life is. It's unpredictable, And for all of us, as time passes, the body will age, the body will get sick, and the body will die. This is life. This is the truth, right? It's scary and upsetting and disturbing to the personality because the personality believes that it will die. It's scary because the personality believes it's a physical body and the body will die. It's scary because the personality believes that anybody or anything that happens in the environment the personality is in that's different than what the personality believes should be happening is a threat. The personality feels threatened. And then the personality rejects, the personality reacts, the personality resists, and this takes the form of getting angry, acting out, being angry with people, being frustrated, being stressed out, losing sleep, not being able to eat properly, spending your energy to distract yourself from your own mind, spending your energy and your life distracting yourself from your own mind. This is no way to live. This is suffering. This is not what's possible. What's possible is peace. What's possible is satisfaction. What's possible is well-being. What's possible is happiness. And it's a natural state. The current brain scientists like Richie Davidson concluded after doing research, brain research, on monks who have meditated for decades, every single day, thousands and thousands of hours, right? And the conclusion that Richie Davidson and his cohorts came up with is that well-being is a practice. That's an amazing conclusion. Well-being is a practice. Basically what they're saying is if you practice sitting still and being silent, if you practice being awake, if you practice paying attention to your own inner reality of thoughts and emotions in relationship to the understandings that you have about what's unworkable and what causes human suffering, if you practice, consistently practice, you will experience well-being. You'll experience the ability to enjoy life. You'll experience the ability to be satisfied, regardless of the circumstances. That's the important thing to remember here. That's what we're up to here. That's what we're practicing. The circumstances in life will be what they are, will be the way they are. They will not be what you want. They will not be what you prefer. They will be what they are. And if you can't allow yourself to get in line, to get in tune with, right? To move with the way reality is, right? If you can't practice that and you can't allow yourself to do that, then the rest of your life will be stressful. The rest of your life will be difficult. The rest of your life will be hard. And it will be more difficult and harder as time passes. So these teachings and practices are intended to allow you to enjoy your life, to allow you to experience life in such a way that you're satisfied with it. And that when time passes and it comes time for the body to go, that you're satisfied, that you're fulfilled. And that you've been practicing consistently long enough that when the time comes for the body to go, that you can relax in the experience of your own death. You can relax in the experience of your own death. You can be calm and in acceptance of the fact that human life is a temporary experience. And one of the reasons you can be calm and in acceptance about that is because you've been studying the teachings and doing the practices long enough to know that you are not the physical body and you are not a personality. And if you've been doing the practice correctly and studying the teachings correctly, you will begin to experience the truth of yourself as awareness, the truth of yourself as consciousness. And obviously, consciousness and awareness is not physical. Therefore, if that's what you are, then when the body dies, you don't die. If that's what you are, when the body was born, you weren't born. You were the unborn. Through the lifetime of the body, you were the unborn. And when the body goes, you're still unborn, and you're not dead either. Right? This is the promise of the practices and the teachings. And even if through studying the teachings and doing the practices, your brain doesn't fully recover, right? Even if your brain doesn't fully recover, in other words, you know it's not true that you're the body, right? But it's been so profoundly put into your brain that even though you know it's not true, you find yourself acting as if it's still true, right? Even though you know you're not the personality, because you believe the truth, you've experienced a direct experience of yourself as consciousness itself, even though you know you're not the personality, you still find yourself being the personality. You still find yourself falling into being the personality. Even if that's the case, okay, you will be far ahead of the game. You will be able to experience a degree of freedom from the life that you would otherwise live if that's all you believed, if that's all you knew, that you were the body and you were the personality. The thing is, it's unrealistic to think that relaxing and calming your mind will allow you to avoid being traumatized or avoid being stressed out and all that goes along with it, right? He's trying to make it clear that that won't happen. You've got to practice this to get to a point. You know, you've got to practice this to get to a point where you can actually pull it off, because your nervous system is already in a condition of being tense, of being fearful, of being reactive. It's doing that all the time. It's just like the body, you know, the body is in a state of tension all the time. The average person doesn't know it because that's what's happening all the time. They don't know it, they can't compare it to anything, right? Anything that's consistent goes unnoticed. Your breath is consistent, so it goes unnoticed unless you intentionally pay attention to it, okay? So if you start to intentionally pay attention to the way your nervous system is reacting to life, you start to intentionally pay attention to it and start practicing relaxing, and you're driving your car, if you start intentionally paying attention to how your body is tight, how your body is tense, right? If you start consciously paying attention to how impatient you are being, right? How vulnerable you are to anything happening that's outside of what you want to happen, like a car in front of you is driving slower than the speed limit, right? And you start noticing the annoyance start to rise in you, right? But if you haven't been practicing sitting in silence and you haven't been practicing these teachings, you won't be ready, you won't be prepared. You'll still find yourself getting caught up in the nervous system's reaction, being uptight, you know, being angry, being annoyed. And then the worst thing is that after it happens, it doesn't end there. This is one of the things that's important to understand. It doesn't end there, right? It stays, it keeps running in the system, you know? So now you get home and you're in a bad mood because of the drive home. And then when you're in a bad mood because of the drive home and somebody innocently says something to you and your family, right? But you're intolerant and annoyed from the drive home, and then you snap at them and they get hurt and upset and say, what's going on with you? Why'd you do that? And then you defend yourself. Can you see the evening is gone now? Started out with the ride home, and then because you're not resilient enough to let go of that experience and move on from there, it stays with you. This is the problem, that if we're living a reactive life, if we're living a life in which what happens in the nervous system keeps reverberating, right? You never get over anything. Everything that's happened in your life stays in the system and keeps reverberating, right? Until you're a mess, until you're a wreck, until you can't stand being yourself. You can't stand being with you, and your life becomes about distracting yourself and finding anything you can to try and get out of your own life. Finding anything you can to try and stop being aware of your own experience, you know? And so if we look at the collective reality of humanity, what does that mean? It means watching TV, becoming a sports fanatic, right? Gambling, smoking pot, drinking alcohol, eating food, pornography, you know? I mean, all the things that are the biggest money makers from humanity are things that people use to distract themselves and increase the pleasure and avoid pain, right? That's the game all of humanity is playing, right? and it doesn't work, one of the reasons that you can see it doesn't work is to just pay attention to the cost that it has on your physical body. You know, it's not an accident that cancer is on the rise. It's not an accident that cancer is on, especially if you understand that cancer is a mutation of cells. It's not like a virus. It's a mutation of cells, right? That the cells, because of the condition that exists at a cellular level, right? And the condition that exists at a cellular level for somebody who's stressed out, for somebody who doesn't get enough sleep, for somebody who's eating the wrong food, right? For somebody whose life is about avoiding distractions and being in control, right? That the pressure on the system is so great that the cells at a cellular level start to mutate and eat other cells. This is called cancer. That's why cancer is something that has been with us all of our lives and is getting worse. The numbers are going up, right? It's getting worse, right? Because the condition is getting worse that we're living in. The psychological and emotional condition is getting worse. We're living in a crisis right now, you know, in terms of the fact that not only are the circumstances that we're living in getting worse in terms of the corruption in politics, right? The difficulties financially that we all live with, the fact that the environment is in the toilet, right? That we're killing the earth, right? Not only that, but all the other technological means that have evolved that we can pay for to distract ourselves, they have all been on the rise too. So now what do you have? You have a social networking, right? Where you can have a large number of friends that you never actually saw in person, right? Large number of friends that you never saw in person, large number of friends that you call their friends just because they friended you or you friended them, right? It's crazy. It's crazy, 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 right? So the answer to your question is that it's something that has to be developed and practiced like anything else that you learn and practice and master. It has to be understood that that's the case. And you don't have time. That's another mistake that people make. The human condition is a condition psychologically that people operate with this false assumption that you have time. First of all, there is no time. Time's not even real, okay? So you can't have time because there is no time. Secondly, the idea that you think you have time is a projection that's based on ignorance. It's a projection based on ignorance. In other words, most people will say, if you ask somebody, well, how long are you expecting to live, right? They'll project it based on the most optimal reality of statistics. Oh, well, people are living to be 100 now, so, you know, I'm figuring 90, 95 at least, 90, 95, 95. That's ignorant. That's ignorant because you do not have time. And when I say you do not have time, I mean all the things that you're putting off that are essential to your well-being, that you think you have time to do, you know. Oh, well, I'll take up meditation later, I'm busy. All the things that you think you have time to do, you're kidding yourself. You're talking yourself out of reality when you think like that. And if you really do accept that you don't have time, that will motivate you to learn and practice what you need to learn and practice so you can escape from the suffering that will otherwise be the case. You know when you're uncomfortable, don't you? Yeah, that's all you got to know. That's all you have
to do that, all that analyze.
No. All you have to do is pay attention to the physical body, pay attention to the thought activity, pay attention to the emotions, and notice when you're off the rails. Notice when you're uncomfortable. Notice when you're in fight or flight. Notice it. And as soon as you notice it, right, go to the breath. As soon as you notice, start practicing. That's why I say when anybody tells me that something difficult is happening in your life, my response is, oh, wonderful, an opportunity to practice. That's how you can change the context of your life. Instead of your life being a predicament or a condition that you're putting up with and struggling with and trying to change, start looking at your life as an opportunity to practice. Anytime there's difficulty, anytime there's a challenge, see, this is an opportunity to practice. Train yourself to remember that so that when things happen like that, you go into practice mode. You go into paying attention, specifically paying attention to what am I thinking, what am I feeling, what's going on in my body. And if you get good enough at it, right, you can intervene. If you get good enough at it, when the mind goes off the rails, when the thinking goes crazy, when the emotions are overwhelming, right, You know, when you practice it, you can start to detect when that's happening, and when that's happening, you can intervene. What do I mean? It means that you cannot follow it. You can stop following it. You don't have to say it. You don't have to say the angry things that go on in your thoughts. You don't have to act out your emotions. Instead of doing that, you've learned enough about this practice. Instead of doing that, right, you just go to the breath and take a deep breath and start practicing relaxing the body and calming the mind, moving attention away from the angry thinking, moving the attention away from the crazy thinking, moving the attention away from the drama. You know, it's a big discovery when you discover that you can dismiss thoughts. You can dismiss thoughts. You can learn to pay attention in such a way that when you're having thoughts that are off the rails, when you're having crazy thoughts, right, you can just dismiss it. You can learn that it's possible to keep the space of your mind clean. This is purification. Keep the space of your mind clean. You know, when there's activity going on there that's negative, right, that is disturbing, right, that's going to cause conflict and cause stress, when there's activity going on like that, I don't care how meaningful you think it is. When there's activity going on like that, you know, you can dismiss it. You can dismiss it. You can just be clear, this is not healthy, this is not realistic, this is not something I'm going to act on, therefore I am not interested in continuing to be involved with that thought process. You can do that.
What if it's a past trauma, something that happened 20 years ago?
There is no such thing as a past trauma. That's all psychological babble.
Oh, it's here present.
It's always here present. There is no past trauma.
I'm thinking